Hey everyone, welcome to Citywide Bytes. I'm your host, Max Bowen, and as they say, all good things must come to an end. After 6 books, the award-winning Vega and Middleton thriller series is coming to a close, with the final book, The Snake Handler's Wife, out on October 1st. I'm talking to author Sue Hinkin about how this series got its start, the different tales she's written over the years, and how she's wrapping the whole thing up. So, Sue, we have a lot to talk about today, of course, but I want to begin with how the whole thing started off. How did the Vega and Middleton series kick off in the first place?
Yeah, it goes way back. I'm like 1,000 years old, and at one point in my life, I had a chance to get a job as a TV news camerawoman out in the field. It was a local station in Michigan that had two major FCC sex discrimination suits against them. So I was a DEI hire, early a DEI hire. They were desperate, and I did have some experience in more in still photography and animation. Not, but I I went for it. I just decided to go for it, and um, I got the job. They were a little nervous about hiring me. Didn't think I'd be strong enough to handle all the equipment. I reminded them that a vacuum cleaner with a kid on your hip is probably a lot heavier than a camera
Hmm.
with lights. Um, but they did hire me, and they also hired another woman, a black woman, the first black reporter in a very black area of the world. And so the two of us were kind of outliers. We would often be sent out together. And that's where my idea of Bea Middleton, black reporter, and Lucy Vega, a photojournalist, partners, that's where it came from. Is the two of us DEI hires who did a great job, by the way, that we went out together, and that's where it happened. That's where it evolved from.
I love that. I love that like your job inspired this series. Now, did this other person who was hired, was she like aware of like what you were doing, kind of basing at least the characters kind of on the two of you?
It didn't happen until years later.
Oh, okay. I see.
It wasn't happening at that moment, but it was. The story kind of I started to go more into writing as opposed to visual
Hmm.
arts. And when I started thinking about shows that I like, strong women characters, it went back to those early days, of we being kind of pioneers in the news industry. And that's that I started from there. It's probably 10 years past the time we had worked together. But
Oh,
it was
okay.
that was a very impactful time in both of our lives.
Yeah,
Having the
yeah.
chance to be out there and doing something new and exciting, and that there are very few other women involved in, like none. So
Now, I'm curious, did the two of you get a chance to like do any kind of like investigative work while you're out there?
sure,
Oh,
yeah,
cool, cool.
yeah, that was our job. I mean, we did that.
Oh,
First, they started sending us out to, there's a Thanksgiving party out at the local elementary school, and the kids are all
yeah.
dressed up like turkeys. I want you guys
Hmm.
to go out and cover it. So, but no, we were good, and she eventually became a lawyer, and so yeah, we ended up doing a lot of investigative type of things. It was a little tough. The woman who's the gatekeeper at the state police hated me immediately because I was taking a job from a man, and she told me that immediately. You're taking a job from a man. What are you doing? People need work. As if I had, magically would put groceries on my table
Right.
without working. So she made it really tough for me. And so whenever I went down with the reporter, they knew that they would end up waiting longer than they wanted to get the access that they needed. Um, so I got cut out of that piece of it a little bit. And
Hmm.
it's nothing I could do. There's really no litigation or anything at that point, that I had nothing. So anyway,
Okay. Wow.
but
I just like
Lucy and
love.
B don't have that problem.
No,
I'm
no,
making sure
right?
they have access
Tell me
to
about
where the
Lucy.
other.
Yeah. Tell me about Lucy and Bea. How did you create these two? Like, how did you kind of base them on the real people, but how are they different?
Um, B is came from a very strong family in Savannah, Georgia, where I lived
Hmm.
for 5 years. I worked at Savannah College of Art and Design for a while, and I've always wanted to live in the South. It's like study abroad. There's just such a different world than what I had grown up in. And B is really based on a variety of women that I knew down there, and also my friend that I worked with in Michigan. And Lucy is was initially based on my character. Um, Also, she's from LA. Huge number of folks who are from Mexican descent there, and so I made her half Mexican and half Norwegian as a nod to my history. So,
Oh,
and
nice.
the places I've lived have been very multi-ethnic, so that just naturally came into my books. It wasn't something that I had planned, but those are the people I had worked with and knew, and so I brought them in, and they became my
Okay.
characters.
Okay. So the first book, Deadly Focus, you published this in 2018.
Yeah.
But was it always a plan to do a series?
I had no plan. As writers, there's kind of two groups. The plotters who are meticulously planning out, and then the pantsers, and that's me. You don't know what's going to happen next. You kind of go with how you think your character would react to whatever situation you bring into the story. So I didn't really have a plan for a series, but I love my characters, and there was no way I was going to let them go and not continue with them. So after I was probably halfway done with the first book, I knew I was going to write more. I didn't know how many, but I was going to write a series.
I am surprised to learn that you are a pantser because I would have think like a mystery series and you've got multiple books, multiple stories. There must be
Yeah,
some kind of like flow chart somewhere detailing everything. So
no.
what's your writing process?
I write a couple hours every day, and I had a bad concussion about 5 years ago, which has left me brain damaged. I have constant headaches, and if I spend more than a couple hours at the computer, I'm sick. Um, Such a drag, but I'm alive and I'm continuing. The one piece of my brain that wasn't injured is the writing piece, so I'm blessed. Um, but I have a critique group that I've been with since 2015, and we meet every week, and I bring 10 pages and review those 10 pages, make the changes, and then continue. Um, but in terms, I've never kind of written myself into a corner. I guess I have a pretty good intuition as to what needs to happen and who my characters are and how they behave. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just one of those
It's
things.
very interesting. It's so interesting because like I've talked to other pantsers out there and they'll be like, yeah, I just tossed like half the book because I wrote myself into a complete corner at one point. So it's nice that you hadn't had that problem. Um,
Well, part of it is my critique group. They're an amazing
yes.
group of people, and they're incredibly supportive, very critical where it needs to be in a way that I am so grateful for. And I think that keeps me from getting too stuck.
How are you taking feedback?
Um, Initially, it was you took it personally, and I was
Hmm.
devastated. But now it's feedback or when two or three people say the same thing. This is a gem. This is a gift, and I am so grateful. So my attitude toward feedback from people I trust is gratefulness. I just really
Hmm.
feel, and I've been in the same critique group for 10 years almost. Yeah, 10 years. And
Wow.
yeah, I know it's unbelievable. And there's not a week I don't learn something. So the fact that I can continue to grow and learn and receive that feedback is, I think that keeps me writing.
How would you say you're different as a writer from when you began to where you are now?
Um, I think I have much more control over my art.
Hmm.
Early on, I really point of view I didn't get. I was all over the place. There are just a lot of skills as a writer that I had no control over. And now I think, especially with the sixth book, there's been seven, but sixth book I just finished. I feel like I'm rocking and rolling right now. I feel like I know what I'm doing. That's not to say I'm not still making, and I probably always will be making mistakes, but I feel much more control over my
Okay.
over my art.
All
That's
right. Now let's talk about your new book, The Handler's Wife. Love that title, by the way. This is
oh
out
great.
on October 1st, just around the corner here.
Yeah.
Walk us through what's going to happen in this book.
Okay, this is the final in the series, and a lot of things needed to be tied up. But at the ending, I don't tie them all up. I do sort of an overview of where they are at their lives now and what might or might not happen. But Lucy is falling out of her relationship with the man that she's been with for a while. Bea is also falling back into a relationship with somebody, with a detective that she um, had broken up with and a while back. So the love relationships are starting to kind of solidify. Um, Lucy's early on in the series, uh, she's an orphan. Her family was killed in a car accident when she was very young, and then her uncle, who raised her, is murdered, and she has survivor's guilt. She is almost suicidal. I mean, she does some things that you just are so stupid, in terms of the risks that she takes and the risks that she pulls people into. But she's really grown out of that. I think she's really grown up as a person and is much more grounded, and realizing that family is not just your immediate family, but it's your friends and the people that you surround yourself with. And Bea was always the good daughter. Father's a minister, mother's a high school principal. She was always playing the role of saver. And she's become much less willing to take care of everybody and beginning to take care of herself. So psychologically, those are kind of the dynamics. But in this book, I call it a cult book, and Lucy's ex lover partner's daughter, who's a recovering addict, gets involved with a cult. And I've always been involved in cults. Why? What is it that, otherwise smart people getting involved with, um, this kind of dogmatic blindness. And there's so much of that going on in our society right now that was another reason I think I wanted to explore it. What's going on, that people are so needy and vulnerable, or whatever, the dynamics that bring them into believing things that are clearly not true,
Yeah.
and willing
Yeah.
to die for those things that are clearly not true sometimes.
hmm
So
So this sounds like a real a research heavy book. Did you have to do a lot of like digging around into like different things to really get a handle on it?
well, definitely studying cults,
Mm,
I lived in Laurel Canyon in LA for a number of years, and the Charles Manson cult is still, part of the history of that area. Um, so I went back into, rereading about the Manson family and other similar types of things. And, they all are pretty similar, in terms of the dynamics that goes on.
hmm
So, yeah. So I wanted to be sure I got the cult thing right. Yeah.
Yeah. Your search history must be amazing to look at, like all the things you've had to like look into
I'm
for your
waiting for
books.
ICE or somebody to come and
Right. You're
call
waiting for
me
the
away at
FBI.
night.
Like you're waiting for like for the cops to be like, we gotta talk about
Yeah,
something
right.
here. Can you
Yeah.
explain any of this, please? And then all you
Yeah.
say is, I'm a writer. And they'll say, okay, never mind. Have a good day.
Yeah, then they run.
Yeah, they're like, okay, never mind, we're good.
Yeah.
So definitely a very intense book. And I do want to ask, you definitely sounds like you put a lot of work into your characters' personal lives. So it's not just a mystery series, it's their own lives too. Is one more challenging than the other to do like the mystery part or the personal part?
I started out not writing, being more thrillery, more action
hmm
oriented. And then I found from my readers, but they really wanted to know more about the personal piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting more involved in their personality and what was going on, which was I'm so glad that I would, learned that
Mm-hmm.
lesson, started to do that. But in terms of the personalities, they really balance each other. Lucy's kind of can fly off into the Netherlands, and Bea is much more grounded. So they kind of provided that balance for themselves, and yet they give each other through that balance. They give each other what the other might need in terms of their own personality development. But did I do a lot of research into it? I guess I just kind of knew these people, so I didn't feel like I needed to do research. I just kind of grew along with them as a
I
writer and
like
as
that.
characters. So,
Yeah. How did you know that this was going to be it? This was going to be your last book, no more.
good question. I think I brought the two women to a point where they um, had developed psychologically to a point where they could be independent, where I could trust that they would make the right decisions as humans, even though they aren't humans, as pretend humans. They just are both at a point in their lives where they are grounded. And so I think that was the point where I wanted them to be, and trust that whatever else came their way, they would handle. Maybe there will be another book. I don't know, but if it happens, it's not going to be right away. But I guess been getting a kind of a strange um, uh, new idea. But
Yeah,
I think
like
I'll take it with some other characters.
yeah, there we go. I like that because
Yeah,
when sometimes when the people say this is the last book in the series, they'll be like, "Psych." 3 years later, new books out. So I was going to ask,
yeah.
are
Well, I
we like?
started a second series. I wrote a book. It was with Crooked Lane. It's about a young woman who's a television screenwriter for like a CSI type show.
Hmm,
So it's similar to what I'm doing in some ways. Um, and it was with a publisher, and the publisher had just put out a couple books that had a Hollywood kind of dynamic to it. They didn't do well, so they pulled mine, and just so it's back, you know, back
oh,
back in the digital drawer right now.
I
But it's a
getcha.
good book, and I might do something more with that. So
Yeah, you don't strike me as the kind of person to ever really hang it up and say, "No, I'm done. No more writing for
no,
me."
I say that all the time, but
Right. You say that on like your bad days, like,
yeah,
this
exactly.
sucks. I'm not gonna do this again. I quit. Next thing I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
nah,
What the
I'm writing
heck
all
am
over
I
again. This is
doing?
awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, no, there's always something cooking, definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of cooking, where do you come up with the ideas for the different stories? Where does it all come from?
Um, I think I'm a reader and always have been a reader. And so I think a lot of it comes from things that I have read. Sometimes I see things on the news that are of interest, but a lot of it is just I'm always reading all sorts of things from news
Yeah.
to books to, you know, I'm a big reader of the type of thing that I write, mysteries and thrillers. And there's always, little nuggets among books from various writers that can trigger something, in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Some like random spot in a chapter you think this would be a great plot for so and so, or this would be a great
Yeah,
scene to
yeah,
do, have something happen. So there's always that
exactly,
little
exactly.
bit. I found that a lot of writers will keep like notepads by their beds because they always wake
Yeah,
up like that was a great dream. I gotta write it down fast because that's
yeah.
my next book.
I have so many notepads that have fallen down the back of the nightstand that I can't get to. At some point, I'll have to drag out. But yeah,
Uh,
I'm always taking notes.
oh yeah, yeah. So how does it feel to be saying goodbye to this series that you've been with for the past almost 10 years?
Yeah, I know it's pretty crazy. Um, it's um, it's disorienting. It's like a big change in your life. It's like leaving a job and starting and not having a new one to replace it, kind of. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
little confusing, and I feel like I'm wondering, there's a piece of me that what am I going to do with my life? This is over. I mean, we have that throughout our lives, but it's definitely a point where I'm making some changes. I just finished a screenplay, and I'm writing a pilot of the series of this series. So I'm kind of going back. I see myself going back in the direction of the visual, piece of my interests, and writing. It's very different, but I'm really enjoying writing to a visual um, uh, goal, I guess, as opposed to mystery writing. And I think it's going to make my novel writing better because it really forces you to be concise, and it forces me to outline because you have to have like a 7-act or 6-3,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's not all bad. So I think it's forcing me to learn some new skills,
Yeah.
which is
I
what we
think it's
want
very
to do,
important.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. I think you always want to be learning. You always want to be getting better. You never want to be saying, "Well, I'm good enough." There's no improving from here. You always
Oh, I
got to be
can't
looking up.
imagine. Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine that.
No,
So
definitely
anyway,
not.
that's the latest I'm kind of exploring.
All right. Well, Sue, thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure to learn about these books.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been terrific, and
Oh,
best of luck to both of us as we continue on our journeys.
absolutely, absolutely. And to the folks at home, you've heard the story. Now, here's what you do: you go to Sue Hinkin, HINKAN.com. Everything is there. Get your copy of the book. Read everything. Leave some reviews. We love seeing that. I see the cover in the
Thank
background. The
you.
cover's awesome there. I love it.
Yeah,
Check out the cover. Leave comments. Leave reviews.
there,
All this stuff.
there.
I
Yeah,
see that.
it's very tiny. It's like a post
Very,
stamp.
very cool. And as always, thank you so much for checking out the show. We really appreciate that. I'm your host, Max Bowen, and we'll see you all next time.